In this lesson, we're gonna start doing some modeling for the shape of the room, blocking out our studio apartment, just very roughly. So I have this file, I created a new file. I just went to File, New, General. I will not save this one. So this is how you start. I will delete these three objects, the camera, the cube, and the light. Press X and delete. And then save the file. I have here a folder for this, studio apartment. I'll call this file the same, studio apartment. And I'll put 1 at the end. Because when we're gonna click this plus, it's gonna go to 2, 3, 4, and so on. And we want to save it multiple times, so we can always go back to a previous version of our project. But for now, I will call it 1 and save. Okay, so now let's start blocking out this scene with the apartment, the studio apartment. Press Shift A to create a new cube. Now let's resize it. I press S. I will press Shift Z, so I cancel the Z axis. And here I'll say 50, like this. So we have the floor. Now let's resize it on the Z axis. SZ.5. And here we're gonna move it down. G to move it. Z for the Z axis. And I'll say minus 0.5. So it is right under the x-axis. Okay, and maybe we're gonna resize this more, we're gonna see about that, but for now we're gonna call this floor. And we're gonna keep everything organized because we're gonna have a lot of objects and we don't want to get lost between them, so we're always gonna name them and organize them so we create good habits. Now let's start creating the walls. So let's create a cube. I'll resize it on the z-axis with 25. So SZ25. And also I'll resize it on the x-axis with 50. So it's as long as the floor. And on the y-axis, I'll say 0.5. I go to top view and I move it here on the y-axis. That's weird. That is not perfectly aligned. Is this one not in the middle? It looks like it's in the middle. It is. That's very weird. But I will align this wall with the floor and move it up. Like this. Now we're gonna use this wall, to create the other walls. Except the wall from the right. Here we're gonna have a lot of windows. So we will not create this one at the moment. But we will later. Maybe the down part of the wall and the up part. Maybe yes. Maybe I'll create those ones now. But I'll leave space for the windows that we're gonna create later. So now I'll take this wall. Let's call it wall. So every time I duplicate it, it keeps the name of the wall. So I duplicate this one and move it on the y-axis. Rotate it on the z-axis 90 and resize it on the y-axis 0.5 and move it here in place. Actually, I'll move it a lot inside. I think I will say again resize on the y-axis 0.5. Like this. No, I think 0.5 is too much. Let's say resize it on the y-axis 0.8. Yes, I feel this is good. And move this one like this. Alright. You know, I feel like I need to take the wall and the floor and resize it on the x-axis a little more. But only on the x-axis. Let's say you can see there in the corner, in the top left corner, how much I will have. Let's say 1.5. No, that's too much. Let's say 1.25. Yes, that's good. And this one, I will resize it on the y-axis. Actually, this one needs to be more thick. Now I realized. Does it have to be more thick? No, it doesn't have to be more thick. We will have here another one that is gonna be more thick. Maybe we're gonna change this walls a little when we will have more objects in the scene. This is just the lookout, so you can change anything about it later. Just to have an idea where everything goes in place. Alright, so now we have to put it like this here. So I press Shift D. On the x-axis, I move it here. And with this one, the first wall that we created, I duplicate this one now. On the y-axis, I move it here. Like this. So let's move it a little more, because you can see here this artifact. Let's move it a little more on the y-axis outside so it doesn't show that. That's perfect. So now let's resize this one on the x-axis and let's say 0.5. Move it on the x-axis over here. Yes, this looks good. Let's see here. I'll go in edit mode and select faces only and make sure that this one aligns with this wall. Like this. And on the other side the same. Alright, this looks good now. But this one we need to make it much more taller. So let's resize on the z-axis. Now before that, let's duplicate it because I will need it over here. So let's duplicate this one and move it on the z-axis and leave it here for the moment. And this one, I resize it on the z-axis 1.3 G and move it up like this. And with this one, I resize it on the x-axis and say 0.3. Yes, this looks good. And resize it also on the y-axis this time as y and say 4. Yes, I think this looks good. Maybe I say 3, 3.5, 3.5. Yes, this is a good size because this is a wall that we're gonna see its still thickness. Alright, so let's move this one in place. Here, let's move it a little more further like this. No, on the edge, okay. Here. This looks good. And we're gonna take the same one, duplicate it. We're gonna rotate it on the x-axis and say 90. And now we're gonna rotate it on the y-axis and say 90. This is good. 7 for top view. Move it here in place. 1 for front view and move it down. Perfect. And here I'll go in the edit mode. Select this face. I press G, Y and move it all the way here. And also I'll take the top one and move it down. This is gonna be the side that is gonna be under the window. And I will take the same one, press Shift D, and I will move it only on the z-axis up. Let's say here. Yes. We're gonna have tall windows. Here we're gonna have a couch, a table, some chairs. Here we're gonna have the stairs that they're gonna go up. I think this. Yes, I think this building is too tall. The lower part of the building. Let's take these objects. This wall, this thick wall, and these two walls. Not this one. This one, the tall one, we leave it there. So I selected these walls, and I go into edit mode, and I select only the top part of them, of each of them, and I'll move it down. Let's say minus 0.2. No, that's not enough. Minus 1. Still not enough. Minus 4. Let me see. Yes, I feel this looks good. I feel this looks good. And this one we need it to be taller. Actually, it's gonna be more taller than this, but I need to do the top part here so I know how tall it's gonna be. And our camera is gonna be from this point of view over here. Maybe a little more out. Something like this. Yes, something like this is gonna be from the camera. But you're gonna set up the camera in another lesson a little later. At the moment, we just want to do this block out so we know where everything is gonna go in place. We're gonna stop here for now with the block out, and we're gonna continue in part 2 with the block out.